Well, welcome. Let's see, who has been here all day? Hey, kudos to you folks. Who's been here most of the day? Oh, very nice, very nice. Well, welcome those joining in right now. You know, today, I don't know whether you're here about your career, about your business, about your job search itself. Today's kind of a mixed, how do you move your brand forward? Well, brand applies to all of those things. You may be here for your business, or you might be here for your job search, or maybe your career is kind of stalled and you don't know where to take it. What you need to do is control the conversation. If you don't control the conversation about you, you're not managing your brand. You have a career brand to manage forevermore. You know, if you're not in your own business, well, then you're in a career. And here's the bad news: you're not just going to have one more job. You're going to have one more job, and then you're going to have one more job, and after that, you're going to have one more job. That's the world we live in today. So if you are in that side of the market, well, let's begin to manage that career brand much earlier. Let's start now if we haven't previously. If you're in your own business, boy, I was just talking to a business individual earlier today, and they had all these wonderful ideas that they had just not implemented. What are we waiting for? Sometimes that collecting the ideas together, deciding what should the conversation about us be. You have to decide this conversation about you. It's real simple. You're here for one purpose: influence. How do you influence how people think of your brand? Now, for this session, we're going to talk about LinkedIn. Traditionally, I'm always building your professional network with LinkedIn and how to use it for your job search. Well, today we're going to widen this discussion just a little bit to include, it's really the same principles if you're managing it for your business. Same principles if you are working, not looking for a job, managing your career perception. LinkedIn is a perception management tool. That's what it is. Whether it's your business, your career, your search, who you are as a professional. You know, job search is tough. Career management is tough. Of the managers that I speak with, 50% of them use LinkedIn just in the decision process for who gets the interview. Not who gets hired, who gets the interview. Imagine you don't have a great LinkedIn profile. That's what you need. In my view, your LinkedIn has to become really the polar opposite to your resume. I'm here talking about resumes quite frequently as well. In my opinion, a resume has to be a single page in all cases. Happy to debate that. I know there's a lot of schools of thought, but nobody wants to read today. I know I'm in a library. It kills me to say this. Nobody wants to read. So if you know they don't want to read, you're going to handle your materials differently. You're going to communicate in a different way. You know, it's not a secret that I work with clients. If I'm producing somebody's resume, there is not a single sentence on the entire resume. Why would I put a sentence on a resume in a world where no one reads? You've got to learn how to communicate within concepts that can be absorbed very, very quickly. Now, LinkedIn's the polar opposite to your resume, at least in my view, my opinion. And that means, how do we take that essence of why you're the best thing since sliced bread in your profession, and how do we somehow transform and extend that story so that really your LinkedIn profile becomes a three-dimensional sales brochure, all about you, that then naturally drives the reader to one singular conclusion. My gosh, if I buy from you, if I hire you, if I use you on my project, it's going to be the best decision I make today. You don't literally say that about yourself, but what you do say about yourself has to drive them to that conclusion. And if you're here for your own business, you are the face of your business. It's not okay just to present the business. People buy for emotional reasons. You have to be the face of your company if you're here for your business. So as we move forward tonight, a lot of these ideas are in my book. The library has a few copies, as I always have some copies myself. The lecture series I give, and I have 7 or 8 different lectures that I'm here quite frequently with, a couple lectures that I present a couple times a year. They all fall under this banner. How is it that I'm going to essentially convert myself over to, train myself to become a really great recruiter that only works for one person? That's you. That means you're going to be the individual looking for a job or the individual representing your business. You're going to be the person that then manages the marketing of that, manages the advertising of that. Ooh. Yep, we've got to market and advertise to control how people think of the brand. But it's not the cheesy advertising you're thinking about. It's really letting people just gently look over your shoulder and see what you're reading, doing, sharing, attending, and they judge you by that. So let's make sure you're attending all the right things or doing all the right things or sharing just the right things. We'll talk a lot about that today. So basic concept of becoming a self-recruiter is I'm going to begin to grow my network a very different way. That's LinkedIn. That's today's lecture. Part 2 of it is keeping one eye on the toughest competitors imaginable. There's 4, 5, 6 people. Oh, I see they're applying for the job. Forget it. Oh, might as well not even try. Those folks. Oh, you can beat them very easily. You can't beat them if you stick your head in the sand. If you pretend they don't exist, oh, they're too scary. They don't exist. They exist. And they're going to beat you every time. But they suffer from ego and arrogance. They wake up in the morning and they go, oh, who are they going to hire? Oh, they're going to hire me. They get dressed. You know, we all have to get dressed. That's not preparation. You can easily outmaneuver these perfect people because I've not met one. We're all human beings. No such thing as perfect. Everybody's defective in some way. No matter how great they look, there's something wrong with them. What are their defects? How can I cut them off the knees right in my own interview process? Well, you got to be careful. You don't want them to think you're a shark or a barracuda, but yeah, I want them to think I'm the best. That's why we have to keep thinking about these tough, scary people. You know, networking, which is the core of what LinkedIn is, networking is about exchanging information. And we all get that, well, that's about my business or it's about my career. But I like this second part here, creating this pool of contacts that we can leverage to our benefit. Why is it they have to do everything the hard way? You don't have to do everything the hard way. You can change things. You know, traditional networking is so limited, we run through it and we go, oh, thank goodness that's over, right? Anybody like networking? Really? I got a small hand. Okay, I know there's a couple guilt hands coming up soon. It's like, well, I like it too. Well, kind of. Yeah. Wow, in a room of this size, we have only a few networkers, right? That's because most of us don't really understand networking. We go, hey, I'm looking for a new job, and you know anything? It's like, no. Short conversation. Networking is about going in and picking all the brains of the people you interface with. I'm guessing these people you're going to reach out and network with are in your industry or the industry you desire to be in. If it's your business, the people you're networking with either can maybe form an alliance with you to go after the same target audience, or they may represent some of your target audience that you want to sell to. These are all things you have to consider when you go to network. But networking is about information gathering before it's really ever information seeding. Get them to listen to you by listening to them first. Find out, what brought you here today? Oh, no, what do you do? No, what's your background? Oh, how'd you get into that? Oh, that's so interesting. And by the time they run out of oxygen on their story and they go, oh, well, John, what about you? I'm like, oh, well, since you're listening, I'll tell you. Everything changes. Don't go first. Plus, your stress levels will drop in networking. It's not as getting in the room. That leaves us pretty unhappy. That leaves us with a lot of these things. I used to ask people, well, how's your LinkedIn? Or how's your last interview? How's your business running? Boy, who needs to hear that all day long, right? So I quit asking. Figured, well, we'll just make a slide. I don't have to hear it all day long, right? This is part of the human condition. And so we have to start here because even on our best days, some of these things are holding us back. So yes, there's a little bit of analysis. Look in the back. Let's see if there's something we should fix or correct. And if not, you need to quit looking in the rearview mirror. Woulda, coulda, shoulda, if I only did, because you can't see what's waiting over the horizon for you if you're stuck looking in the rearview mirror. Or you're probably going to crash into a median, which won't end up with a very positive outcome. Let's look at this concept of usual, customary, and expected. You know, that's just the way it is. You know, that's what you're supposed to do. You know, these are the steps. Says who? You know what this is? This is a rut. This is doing the same thing over and over. I'm just going to keep doing the same thing, and I just expect miraculously through osmosis I'm going to have some different result. You're not going to have a different result unless you change the rules. You have to change the equation by changing the rules. Subtitle of my book. I like to change any rule that does not work for me. There, I said it. Now, I still have to stay professional. I still have to stay appropriate. But gosh, I control those definitions too. So I have a very wide latitude on those definitions. So I can call any CEO. I can say hello to anybody. Who says I can't? So let's think about how we could change some of these rules that are set up to work against you so you get a different outcome. These rules are just sets of plans of ways we should do things. Somebody else has decided this. Why don't you sit and look at this law or principle governing your future and say, well, I'm in charge of my destiny, not somebody else. You know, in job search, you know what that is. No phone calls. Apply online. Must apply online. Must send a Word document. Oof. I hope to gosh you never send a Word document ever to anyone. Maybe a PDF might be nice. Come back to the resume lecture. We'll talk about that. Won't be considered unless you include your compensation requirements. You know what that means? Tell me how little I can pay you. I don't think I want to answer that question. All right? So let's look at these rules and let's say, well, I have to change some of these things. These things don't work for me. So you can probably guess from where I'm going in the story here, I'm not a big fan of applying online. That doesn't really work. You know, clients will call me up and they'll go, oh, I want to go after this job. I see this job. Great, don't apply for it. We're like, what? Don't apply for it. Now, let me be clear. We're going to apply for it at some point, most likely. Not in all cases, but probably. But if you're my client, I want you to go get the interview first. It is not brain surgery to get an interview like that. It is taking candy from a baby. I love babies. But my gosh, if there's a little baby here and they got some candy, I can just take it right away from them. They can't even stop me, right? It's that simple. Now, it is scary because maybe you haven't done it before. And maybe you're going through the wrong people. Maybe that's it. By the way, who wants to work in HR? Which I promise is totally okay. It's totally okay. Who wants to work in HR? Really? So great. I have one volunteer. Thank you so much. Guess where your decision makers are? In HR, in the department that wants to hire you. Now, if the rest of us are being honest and you don't want to work in HR, guess where your decision makers are not? HR, first off, they get a bad rap. They have a lot of work that they do and they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Why is it that you call HR when you're working? Any idea? Why are you calling HR? Yeah, my 401k's not right. My vacation's not right. My boss is a little touchy-feely. It's like, hopefully that's not it. Believe me, do you think HR wants to answer the phone? It's like, what comes next? Manager, yeah. Stress, problems. How do I handle these people? How do I discipline these folks? How do I train them? So HR is stuck between this rock and the hard place. And I would argue to you that they're working with a defective list. I should remind you, everything today I'm teaching you is my opinion. You should take it with a grain of salt. I'll give you a little bit more of my background here as we go along so you know how to weigh that opinion, but you should take it with a grain of salt. In my view, you have to sit and think about what are we going to do to present ourselves, to get these jobs, to be seen. And the decision maker is an individual you could have a 90-second conversation with, and they know exactly why you're right or not. So if you're trying to kid yourself into a job you're not qualified for, they'll see through it right away. But if you are right for, I'm right for that job, decision maker right away would see it too. Let's get to them. We'll show you how to do that today. Let's do a lot more of this unexpected, unconventional things, and that's going to allow us some creative interpretation, these moments of clarity as things begin to connect behind the scenes. Don't let somebody else think for yourself. You know, I used to start with this slide, but I'm going to show you the steps that I think really are a better approach to job search next, and I want to shake up your thought process. You know, I'm lucky enough I live down at Grand Street FTR, and that means I'm in Chinatown sometimes very early in the morning, and that means 8 o'clock in the morning sometimes. I don't know if you've ever been to Chinatown at 8 o'clock in the morning. Oh, that's a magical time. You can see many, many things you've never seen. You know, I'm in my own world. I got 5,000 things going on in my brain, walk into the subway, and I look up, and suddenly here's an entire hog walking down the street on this guy's shoulder. Have you ever seen one of these things in real life, besides the bacon in the refrigerator case, which I do love? But my gosh, they're huge. Huge. My first thought is, oh my gosh, why isn't this guy toppling over? You know, he's a pretty stout guy. Okay. Hog caught my attention, but his T-shirt, don't let somebody else think for yourself. We're in autopilot, and especially as New Yorkers, we're so good at putting up the bubble and tuning it all out. I mean, you could be killing each other next to me on the platform. I'm like, what? Huh? What's going on here? Huh? Can't even see it 5 feet away. You've got to learn how to think for ourselves and think out of the box. and not follow directions like no phone calls, must apply online. You know, as a recruiter, maybe now's the time to tell you about my background, 7 or 8 years in outside recruitment as a traditional headhunter on a desk. 2 of those were national market, which just means I never met anyone, never met a manager, never met a candidate, lots of placements. Then I did local market Manhattan where I had to meet everybody. Next, I spent 3.5 years just training all the new recruiters across a 100-office recruiting system, and then capped that off by being VP over all 100 offices before moving out to do what I do now for the last 7 or 8 years, to really work with and teach individuals. So that's where the advice comes from. It comes out of actual work on a desk, seeing what people choose and hire, not what they claim. So let's think how we're going to change this equation. Here's what I think job search really is, which factors into today's LinkedIn lecture. I think you have to create a job search plan. And by the way, if you'd like more detail on this, you should come back for my organizing and managing your job search, a whole 90 minutes on this. But create a job search plan by selecting the organizations or companies you'd like to go after, not a list of the job postings. Part of the problem with job postings is 50% of them are not real. What do you mean? They're on the internet. A lot of stuff on the internet. It's not real either. Now, I can tell you half of them end up not being real based on how they're sold. As VP over all 100 offices, I did all the national contracts. And I don't mean the mom and pop bodega on the corner or the office of 10 people, but a company of any size, they buy their job postings 1 time per year. It's the only way you ever get a good deal. So you take that number to your sales rep, you do a little horse trading, I cut a deal, I sign that contract. Those are use them or lose them in 12 months. No idea 6 months or up to a year ago what they're hiring today. It's like a dish of M&Ms. Very quickly, I just, I better start posting stuff. Till it ends up half of them you see aren't real, and you can't tell which are real. So why don't you instead choose the companies you want to go work for? Let me choose 30 companies. There's a good number. Let me choose 30 companies I'm dying to work for, and I want to know why. Then let me go into figuring out, well, what are the steps I'm going to need? I want you to think like a detective. I want you to think a little bit like a Sherlock Holmes. How can I work backward to make life easier? You don't have to have all this knowledge yourself. You can devise the steps, discover the decision makers. I'll show you today how to discover the decision makers reverse searching in LinkedIn. So you can see any decision maker in any company that you want to go after, as long as you grow your network to the right size, and we'll talk more about that. Overcome any objections. You know, it's their job to object to you. No, we don't have anyone. We don't need anyone. We don't want you. Whatever they say to you, it's your job to overcome it and persuade them that you are so valuable. Oh, I know that would normally be your answer, but here's why you should speak to me. Here's why I'm different. Overcome the objections. Get a meeting. Go in there and dazzle them and either get the job or have them create a job for you. There's a BBC video article that's up on my website. I usually play it before some of these lectures. And there's a guy that I met right here at this library in that video, Jerry Montgomery. He's in the second half of the video when you get to see it. I met him here, I think it was 2 years ago. It could be 3 years, but I think it was 2 years ago, March. And when I met him, he was unemployed for 4 years. Now hanging out at the library. Oh my gosh, well, what are you doing? The crash, you know, I can't get an interview. It's like, it's over for me. You know, I think at that point he was facing about 50. He's like, oh, it's probably some of that. You know, he's also African American and he's dark complected. And I don't live in a world where I don't think that affects. It shouldn't affect, but you know, there's probably some of that in there too. But my gosh, if you talk to this guy for 2 or 3 minutes, your first thought is, why aren't you working? He got laid off from Pitney Bowes in customer service, and he's worked for a lot of great brands in customer service. He is fantastic in customer service. So if he can get an interview, well, which he can't get, he could get hired. And so, to be clear, by the way, Jerry never hired me. He just came to as many lectures as possible, implemented as much technique as possible. He had his new job by June. March to June, he had his new job, all by himself. Combining what you'll learn today on LinkedIn with a little bit of his own ability. He'd changed jobs before. He'd never been without a job, but he always had the strength to walk out that door, walk in the next door, introduce himself, and get the job. But after the crash, how many places did he have to walk into and get turned away before he's like, that's not going to work any longer. The only thing that worked for me is over now, and now I keep hitting submit, 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 and I can't get an interview. But once he built out, he'd never heard of LinkedIn. didn't have his great customer service story. He didn't exist professionally on the internet. His brand didn't exist. So he went to LinkedIn, built out this great customer service story across all these brands. I couldn't tell him 30 companies. If I told him 30 companies after 4 years, I might as well tell him to climb Mount Everest. So I said, just pick 3. Just pick 3. The odds of success on 3 are not very great, by the way, but we've got to get started, right? One of those 3 companies hired him. And he did exactly what I'll teach you today, plus he combined it with his own technique of being brave enough again to be able to walk in the door because his new story is now public. Let's think about how you change the equation even in your own process. LinkedIn, de facto social networking website for your work life. Think of it exactly like Facebook, except maybe Facebook is, I'm having another bottle of water. One more bottle of water. I'm going to be going to the bathroom soon. It's like, I don't know where that goes. Maybe that goes on Twitter or certainly on Instagram. I don't know where that goes. But LinkedIn's a chess game. 6, 8, 10, 12 moves ahead. I don't do something on LinkedIn without thinking about the strategic effect of perception. If someone sees me reading this article or commenting on this book or sharing it or going to this event or see a picture of me somewhere doing something, maybe even in my non-work life, maybe I'm out hiking. Sometimes I have an Instagram account along with many other social media accounts. Sometimes I put some, I'm out hiking on the trail probably. One up to this weekend, it's motivational, has nothing to do with what I do, but it helps manage my brand. Because it's the entirety of you that you have to manage, not just the professional you. So how are we going to showcase ourselves across LinkedIn? Now, LinkedIn's a few other things. It's also a communications, research, marketing, and advertising platform. Business people, well, we think of this LinkedIn this way automatically, of course. If you're not a business person, even as an individual, you have to think of it this way. You have a career brand to manage forevermore. This is how you begin to manage it. A little sip of water. So, to sum up this part, take the first step and repeat, 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 repeat. It is scary to begin to reach out and introduce ourselves. It's scary to even take the first step. I don't know where to start. That's what most people I talk to say. I don't know how to get started. It's like, don't try to develop the entire master thing laid out. You'll never get there. What's the first step I need to take? Let's take that. What's the next step? Break it down to the smaller components. Now, this is a little bit of a visual of the back-end network on LinkedIn. Simplified, of course, but it's a 3-level network. Now, they used to talk about this an awful lot. Now they don't talk about it so much, but it's still there and it's still yours. So, as an example, let's say you and I connect. I'm down here in the corner, happy guy. I'm connected to another happy person, my connections. But regardless of what my connections do to their settings, every one of their connections are also in John's pool. Not John's connection, but they're in John's pool. And no matter what they do to their settings, every one of their connections are also in John's pool. I get 3 levels of people into my pool. Now, I do have a lot of connections. I have about 5,200 connections. You know, at some point I had 6. So don't get wound up over that number. That's here, 5,200 connections. 3 levels out, I have a pool of 21 million people. That means any decision maker in any company I ever want to go after, I can see them, I can see their background. Anybody have an interview coming up? No interviews? Gosh, well, hopefully soon. If you did have an interview next week, say it on Tuesday, let's think about this. If we're thinking like a detective, a little bit of a Sherlock Holmes, if I've got an interview on Tuesday, if my pool is large enough, do you realize I could go in and search my pool and pull up everybody that's ever held that job before and read about how did they talk about that job? Now, if I was really thinking, I could go look up all the direct competitor companies and find the people doing the same job there. Anywhere in the country, it's for research, doesn't matter. And read about how do they talk about it at the direct competitor company. Even if they do it differently at the competitor, it doesn't really matter. You think you're right for the job combined with the people that do it, combined with the competitor, you'd be transformed in your ability to go in and hold that conversation, hold their attention, win them over. Really game changer. It's really much simpler than you may think as well. Back to this idea of influence. How do you persuade and influence? You know, whether it's using the LinkedIn profile for your business or your career, whether you're interviewing or whether you're meeting with prospective clients or vendors for your business, whatever it is, it's about credibility. The LinkedIn profile gives you credibility when you build it out properly, and it can showcase just the right elements that you want to showcase and leave out any elements you want to leave out. Now, I grew up Catholic, which means I know all about sin, and I know there's no sin of omission here. I can leave out any part of my story I'd like to leave out, as long as every single thing that's in the story is absolutely letter true. You can never be called into question. You only have your credibility one time. But I can drop any parts of the story I'd like to drop. And that's also how I begin to shift perception over time a little bit. Everything's still true, but I control perception. Now, brings us to the first real question: whom should I connect with? Whom should I network with? Whom should I add to my LinkedIn pool? Any thoughts there? Who should I add? Who'd be pretty good to add? Friends? Sure, why not? Now, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I don't know, time passes so quickly, I got 2 really nasty emails because 30 years had passed. And I moved in the middle of high school, and it was time for some reunions. I'm like, 3 decades had passed. How's that possible? And obviously I only graduated from one of those schools, but they were very nice to both send me invitations, neither of which I could go to. But small schools. And so they just sent those things out CC'd? Copy? What should I do with that? First thing I did was go to LinkedIn, and I pasted it into connections. Really? All those kids that I grew up with, that I haven't seen in 30 years? Why do I want them in there? Because it's never about your connection. Whoever your connection, it's never, maybe near and dear to your heart, but it's never about your connection. It's about those 2 or 3 layers of network behind that you get. So even more horrifying than that, I then took that copy and went over to Facebook. Because I use my Facebook for business, which means I don't get to ever say anything fun. Oh, I have a pretty good wit. I love to use it. It's like, ooh, did you write that? Did you think that was funny? Oh, it was funny at the time. Got to be really careful. So I don't get to say anything fun on Facebook, but I use it for business. And so I dump all these folks in my Facebook 30 years later as well, which was actually a wonderfully interesting experiment because some of them have not changed since 6th grade. I'm like, wow, you got married, you had kids, you've done all this stuff, and you have not changed since 6th grade. Wow. No judgments. And other people are just, they blossomed into a butterfly. And some people have, well, the ones that I was with, 1st grade through sophomore year of high school, it is a little disconcerting when you get an email back going, do I know you? I'm like, wow, all those years and you have no recollection. Let's short circuit this. Whom do I add to my network? Everyone. Let's think of this concept of 6 degrees of separation. I can get to any other person in the world if I can find just the right 6 connections between me and them. But that's not mathematically true. Mathematically, it's 4.77 to 1, not 6 to 1. This is a 3-level network. It's a very powerful network if you begin to think of it. So if I could connect to everyone, I certainly would. Because it's never about them, it's about what information can you gain. So whether we're at a career fair, or maybe we're at Job Search Central, I noticed people were lined up out here, or maybe we're at the church, synagogue, or temple, wherever we congregate, you've got to be thinking, you've got to be ready in the park, at the diner, waiting in line at the movies. Got to be carrying one of these type things, or if you don't have a business card, how could someone possibly, oh, hi, nice to meet you, oh, here's my card. Oh, do you have a card? Oh, you don't have a card? Oh, I won't remember you, sorry. How can you make an impression? Working or not working, you got to have one of these. Let's have a tough discussion. I was just helping a nonprofit a few months back that was doing some rebranding. This is a very big name nonprofit. They have a very small amount of employees, about 80 employees, compared to very big name. And they were actually having the card-worthy discussion. It's like, where is our staff card-worthy? Somewhere below here, you're not card-worthy, and somewhere above. It's like, are you kidding me? I'm not worth the $12 wholesale for a box of cards to make me feel good after you spend all this money to hire me? Companies can be ridiculous sometimes in the way they look at things. But if your company doesn't provide, if you're working and your company doesn't provide your card, go print one. You've got to have a business card. If you're not working, you still have to have a business card. Maybe you replace your title with a positioning title, which you typically might do. Other than that, it stays pretty much the same, although you become the center of focus, not your company's brand. To sum up this part, link with as many people as possible. Let's move on to social media marketing, because I want to open up tonight We're going to squeeze it so we end a little bit early so we can open it up to general questions at the very, very end. So as we go back to this idea of marching your message out to the world, well, from a marketing and advertising standpoint, you're going to have to decide what is the message I want to march out to that world. How is it that you want others to think of you professionally? Most of us are not very good at coming up with that. Maybe you need to work with somebody else. I know a pretty good coach if you need one. But most of us need to work with someone that can have a little perspective. It could be even one of your friends. And think about, well, who am I? What do I have to offer? How do I leverage the size of this network? Let's give you some numbers. Now, this screenshot I'm about to show you is from last year. LinkedIn no longer gives you this nice screenshot. But last year, about a year ago, I was at 4,100 connections, which gave me a pool of 19 million. So just to keep that real, these are real numbers. This is data. It's a gold mine if you begin to think about how could I use this data in ways I've never thought of yet. A lot of competitive analysis, whether that's competitors for our business, competitors for my career, a lot of things I could do here if I could just think a little fresh. Now, as you sign in, you're going to get some sort of thing like this with your news feed below it. I just want to isolate this so you can see these couple things here. Up at the top, yep, you're going to see a small U. When I took this screenshot, you can see I had 4,700 connections, called followers. And then you can see in this little snippet here, you can see the last 3 days, 10 people looked at the profile. By the way, that's how you find out who's looked at you. If you've never looked at this, oh, you will after this. And once you start, you can never stop. Who's looked at me? Can't stop. That's a marketing tool. LinkedIn is trying to use it against you to build desire for a paid account. By the way, nothing wrong with the paid account. But I should tell you, I only use the free account. Everything I teach you, you can do on the free account. If you want a paid account, you should pay one. But your goal is to use this tool that they've created. Their tool is to build desire, so you want to upgrade. I think you want to reverse this tool, and I'll show you how it works, so that this is how you put yourself in front of all the right people at the company that you want to go work for, so they see you. Hi, I'm right here. I'm right here. Imagine you can warm up the audience behind the firewall of the company, 25 or 30 people that all surround the job or the area you'd like to work. That's a very different outcome. That's how you access that. Last thing I shared got 211 views. A couple hundred, yeah. Not very much, is it? Well, I don't know. It depends on how you use your news feed. I can tell you, I read a great many things in my news feed that I certainly never click on. Those are clicks. If I got 211 clicks, I got thousands of people that read that. You know what that is? That whatever it is I shared? Well, it would have been talking about one of my lectures, but it's advertising. No matter how I phrase it, it's advertising. Every little snippet, what you let people look over your shoulder, what you're reading, doing, sharing, attending. Lots of data on your dashboard you can dig into. Information is the new currency. The more information that you have access to, the more likely you are to be able to leverage it to your benefit. I want you to be sitting on the largest possible pool of data so that when these crazy ideas of what if I had this information, I know where you could get it. You'd like to be able to act upon it. So let's begin to think about this. Today we're really thinking in terms of what we can extract from LinkedIn from the database itself, but we're going to, in part 2 here, coming up shortly here, we're going to show you how to maximize your profile, which is really seeding information to the database so you can be found. For the rest of our work here, our success is determined by how much preparation we have to think about this concept of leads, these clues that we follow in the resolution of a problem, because you have to start thinking like a detective, and you have to make sure that you can hear the clue through the noise. And given that we're all, most all New Yorkers here, we're so good at that bubble. Got to get rid of the bubble. Back to the dashboard. This is still the free version. On the dashboard, it's a 90-day view. So as you start improving your profile in the ways that I'll tell you, this is how you manage the improvement process. What's working, what's not working. So last 90 days, 364 views of the profile. Okay. Again, not a secret, I work with clients. If I'm reinventing someone's LinkedIn profile, this is the first thing I look at. I'll go into their account, I open this up, and it'll say 9. 9 people have looked at you in the last 90 days. I think 8 of those were you. Nobody's looking at you. If nobody's looking at you, how could you be hired? That's simple mechanics. Let's start to manage some of the mechanics as well. This dashboard will help you. By the way, on the free version, you only get to click in one or two. All of these things, everything is a data point you could click into to get more information. But on the free version, you only get to click in one level before they go, oh, would you like to upgrade? I'm like, no, not really. I'll keep that in my pocket. But you could look a little more frequently. You could learn something from the data you do look at. How did they find me? What keywords did they use? What was their background? And you can extrapolate that, to the larger people that might view you without even seeing it. Do some research. Lots of information there. Now here's the heads up where they show you 5 people. They go, these people looked at you in the last 2 days. Who? This is what you see. Now, actually, Fred here's one of my clients. That was a good screenshot. So these 5, this is 2 LinkedIn members. This is actually, I should tell you, this is 2 LinkedIn members that don't understand LinkedIn. And these people understand LinkedIn. Don't understand LinkedIn, understands LinkedIn. Now, once I get interested and I start clicking, and then I go, oh, click. And this is where they go, oh, would you like to upgrade? I'm just teasing you. You can't click on these. You have to upgrade for that. Well, maybe we need to look a little more frequently. Now, we're talking about managing our brand, whether it's our business, our career, whatever, it doesn't matter. I definitely see one picture here that does not belong. Can anybody else spot this picture? I see a picture. Yeah, I see a couple not. I see, I see that picture. So this gentleman down on the right, gosh, I hope he's not in the room. Sorry about that. It's all random. That's really not a great picture for managing your brand. I can't really even tell where it's shot. It almost appears to be in a bedroom. I'm not sure if this is some sort of a trophy or is it a beer tapper. I'm not really sure what that is in the picture. By the way, if he works for Anheuser-Busch, this may be a great picture. I don't know. Although I'd go for one with the Clydesdales. I mean, come on, pull some strings and get out there and get a selfie with those folks. It's like, So maybe the secret here is just look a little more frequently. Maybe every time you log into LinkedIn, you quickly look at this so you're aware of who's looking at you. Do you realize, well, let's back up to that for a second here. After this little animation populates, so let's back up one more second here. Do you realize you could simply go click, 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 and immediately I've marketed myself right back to these people. With 3 seconds, click, 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 I've suddenly shown up on their radar screen again as looking at them. Who's looking at me? Oh, John. I looked at John last week. What was his background? They found me and looked at me for some reason. Why don't I tap them on the shoulder again and go, I'm still here? Just by looking at them without ever having to say anything. That's marketing, and it's free. This is how you begin to spread the ideas about you. Now, let's move a little bit ahead here. We're going to show you 2 different techniques. I don't know, there's this giant pool of data. So we're going to show you 2 different techniques. There's many techniques you could use. These are meant to cause you to think of some things. Then we're going to show you how to maximize profiles. So this technique is a one back, one forward technique. This is a recruiter technique. And if you had come into, when I was a recruiter, if you'd come into the office or over the phone and I interviewed you and I deemed you a good, solid candidate, you get the John Krant rubber stamp of approval, I'd go, oh, good candidate, I'd like to work with you. I don't have anything on my desk right now for you, but let me put some calls out and let me see what I can do. By the way, that sounds exactly the same whether they meant it or not. So apologies for those 3.5 years training recruiters because I'm very good at training them. The goal here is to disarm you. When you're talking to a recruiter, your statistical chances of success are near 0. Well, if you're really good, they're actually 1% or 2%. Because for every 100 people I would identify myself, locate, good solid candidate, interview them, qualify them, ready to go, you place 1 to 2 ever, not just this time. So when that recruiter speaks to you, they need to walk away with ka-ching for them. They need to walk away with information. Now, I can't work with you unless I know where you've sent your resume and where you're interviewing, because I can't approach those companies on your behalf. And I can't work with you if I don't know what's going on, because I can't be out there talking to managers about you and then suddenly you've sent your resume somewhere I don't know. I can't be caught that way. So if we're going to work together, I need a list. Are you listening? I doubt it. You only heard what I intended you to hear. What I said was absolutely truthful. You just didn't hear it. I cannot call those companies on your behalf. Should I say it again? I cannot call those companies on your behalf. But the moment I hang up this phone, the moment you walk out that door, I'm going to go into my files. I'm pulling out someone better than you because I know who you are. So I can easily pull out someone better than you. And I call every one of those companies you just gave me. And you're out, and I'm in. That's the way recruiting works. And I escaped with a little bit of my soul left, thank gosh. But I learned a lot, and now I help individuals. So I want you to think about how you're going to leverage this. If the recruiter meant it, they do this technique. They use their own database. You have your own database. It's called LinkedIn. But they use the recruiter's database. They use this technique, and this technique will generate a list of 30 companies statistically perfect to hire you. The only thing you don't know is, do they have an opening? Which you know I'm going to argue to you, there's no way of you knowing they have an opening. But come up with 30 companies statistically perfect, and then the good recruiter does not bother to look at Monster, Career Builder, LinkedIn Jobs, any of that stuff. They don't look at the company websites. They simply pick up the phone and call 30 managers at 30 companies, and magically 2, 3, or 4 always go, oh, I need a person just like this. You do? Tell me what you need. What's going on? What's your team? What's going on? I don't tell them about the homework, the magic trick, the fact that I just selected just the right one. Oh, I knew I was going to hit the jackpot. No, we leave the homework away. By the way, 2, 3, or 4 out of 30 is a very good return on your efforts. So how do we do this technique? I'm going to go into my database, which is LinkedIn. I'm going to search for people just like you. No matter how unique we are, there's someone exactly like you. Let's get over it. It's true. So some aspect, not every aspect, some aspect of you. We find someone that's duplicate to you, that's made one job move forward. Now, as they made one job move forward, they will naturally have one job backward. So everybody you collect together will have one back and one forward. You now go through that list and start making a list of all those companies. As an example, I usually mention, let's say I'm a Coca-Cola quality manager, or I used to be, until I got laid off. Now what? As I go back and I pull all these other competitors, I'm going to find 7-Up, Pepsi, RC Cola. John, I could have written that list myself. Yes, that list you should have written yourself. But then you're going to see all these food and beverage companies you've never heard of. There's a million of them. Every one of them statistically perfect to hire you. They hired your duplicate. Really this simple on this part. Let's show you a different technique. This is a 1, 2, 3 forward technique. Now, this one's a little more advanced. Now, this one is good if you're just getting out of school and getting in the job market. Also really great if you're halfway through your career and suddenly you go, I so don't want to do that any longer. I want to reinvent myself and go a different direction. It's good for either one of those scenarios. And we have a real example for this one because it's a little more complex. So, same beginning part, I'm going to go in and search for some aspect of myself, but now I'm going to have to search much harder because I have to find people that made 3 job moves forward because I'm trying to learn from them so I don't have to reinvent the wheel. As I dig, and I start collecting all these people together, I then go through this information. Now here's the backstory, and then I have the slides next to show you. Gal calls me up from Atlanta. She goes, oh, I think I need a career coach. I think I don't have a career. I'm like, oh, that's a little harsh. You know, send me your stuff. And she sends it to me. I'm like, she's done a little of this, a little of that. Now she's managing a health club. By the way, nothing wrong with managing a health club. But it's not what she wants to do. She says, I know I can find one of these career things. How do I find this career thing? I don't know how to do this. I'm like, well, let's use this technique. So she went to Clark Atlanta University. So that's the criteria we search for. She's only 3 or 4 years out of school. I said, let's go back to your original asset, the degree. So all these folks here went to Clark Atlanta University. They all have her same degree, mass media. And then we start looking at titles. You know, anywhere in the country, it's for research. What titles do you like? Oh, events. Oh, I'd love to work at events. Oh, events at Warner Brothers. Oh, I'd love that. That sounds fantastic. Membership director. Oh, I'd love to be a membership director. Oh, recruiter. I'd like to help people. I'd like to be in HR. I'm like, we'll come back to that one. We go up here and we click on Trish. Same number of years out of school, same asset to start with. How did she get there? What do you think her first job was? Membership associate. What do you think her second job was? Membership manager. And voila, she's suddenly membership director. Well, here my client over on the right, Tahita, didn't even know what kind of company she's looking for. Now she knows she's looking for a nonprofit or foundation, lots of those around Atlanta. So fantastic. Didn't know what kind of role. Oh, I'm looking for a membership services role. I don't even know what that is. Doesn't matter. They like this background of mass media for that. You'll be very good. Go sell yourself. Suddenly she's at the Georgia Pharmacy Association in membership services. but we have to do a little bit of an update because some time has passed since I've been telling this story. It's been a long time. And my gosh, we have 2 more updates. She's still with Georgia Pharmacy Association, but she got promoted up to the Manager of Member Services and Database, and then finally up to the Director of Membership Operations. She's got her career. In just a few short years, she's now achieved exactly the target she went after simply by learning from someone else. Go and get the career you want. You don't have to learn it all yourself. You can learn it from other people. Take your assets and take them a different direction if you'd like. By the way, if you're a Coca-Cola quality manager and you're suddenly out on our rear end, you suddenly go, I'm so done with selling sugary sodas, but now what? What am I supposed to do? That's all I know. I do that same search. I dig really deep for people that used to be Coca-Cola quality managers, 3 job moves forward, but I'm looking for people that left food and beverage. Yep, you're going to have to dig. But you're going to find lots of people that left food and beverage that went to all these other companies. Why would that company hire? Why would that company hire? I don't know. But I bet you they like that training, that background. Go and introduce yourself because they hired your duplicate. Great technique. It'll help you a lot. Now, personal branding. That's the rest of our session today. This is how to maximize your presentation of your profile on LinkedIn. Part of your personal branding is also your resume, your cover letter, printed envelope, business card. By the way, the LinkedIn profile is your single biggest piece of personal branding in existence if you maximize it, or not if you don't use it. Signature block, most overlooked piece of personal branding. This is an email. You open up a new email to send someone a message. Is it blank? You don't have a signature block. I don't care if it's desktop, laptop, tablet, phone. I don't care who makes it. Every single one of those devices takes a signature block. You likely need a little 12, 13-year-old niece or nephew to come over. They can probably install one in about 90 seconds. At the minimum, it should say something like Best John, John Krant. Here's my title. Well, I'm not working. What should I put? Well, put a positioning. What do you normally do? Well, I'm an office manager. Who do you work for usually? Well, nonprofits. How about office management for nonprofits and foundations? There, I have a positioning title so that they get a sense of who I am, what I do. My phone number and my email, because I need to show that I have to put my email in my email. Yeah, attention to detail. How about closing it out with your sales brochure? Connect with me. Connect. Oh, motivate them. Connect with me on LinkedIn and stick in your address line. So every personal, every business email that ever leaves your hands ever again travels with your sales brochure about why you're the best thing since sliced bread. That's a very important game changer. You have to get people thinking of you in a different way. Now, LinkedIn. Basic sign up we're not going to do. Empty profile is not going to help you. So I'm going to take you through my profile, but you need to disregard my content. Let's zoom in here and we're going to isolate this out. Disregard my content. What you have to learn is how I utilize the space to tell story. That's the real secret. So you can also spend some time on my profile yourself. I did not get a chance to put cards out, but I know there's cards outside and there's cards up here. You can take a look at my LinkedIn profile yourself. Adapt what you see over to your story. Learn some of the technique. Now, everything you're going to see after this is one very long profile. By the way, that's almost our goal. Not dull, but our goal is the same goal as when we build a website. The goal of any website is called stickiness. That means they work so darn hard to get a visitor. Once the visitor arrives, we want them to lose track of space, time, their next meeting, the fact that I have to go to the bathroom, the fact that I haven't eaten. They just never leave because they're so engrossed in this story. Oh, I hope you can spin and create a really great, truthful story. Now, we start at the top. Picture? Yep. Boy, I know every issue attached to pictures. If they don't want to work with my business, if they don't want to hire me, if any of that stuff is going on because of what's in the picture, my first thought is too bad, so sad for them. They're going to miss out on a dynamo, and you know what? I don't need to work with them anyway. I dodged a bullet on this one. Let some time pass, and those folks are gone. But what can I win if I can choose the right picture? The only 2 reasons you ever get hired, there's only 2 of them, assuming you're capable. I cannot make you capable. If you're capable for the jobs you're going after, it is 2 items only that get you hired. Number 1 is chemistry above all other things. And number 2 is confidence above all other things than chemistry. And you can win both of those right from the right picture. If there was any hope of you picking the right picture, I am very sure you cannot pick the right picture because you're so biased against yourselves. Now, I like this picture. Actually, I love this picture. But, you know, the picture before this one, I felt just like you. I hated it. You know, I had to have a picture that kind of worked. I'm like, oh, well, this one kind of works. But all I could see in that picture, and you know, you can't ever get those things back off the internet. So if you were dying to see it, you could go find it. But I look at that picture, and all I go is, oh, where's my hair? Why is my nose so big? You know, all these things we don't like. Get past it. That stuff doesn't matter. So I do want to point out, this is not posed. This is 5 Junes ago now at City Hall, 2:30 in the afternoon on Tuesday. A couple friends getting married. And they're like, oh, sure, I can go with my schedule. And photographer never stopped us, just kept seamlessly moving and shooting. And somehow with all those hundreds of people around, got me isolated against the poles. All that is joy over my friends getting married. You need a little bit of the cat that ate the canary, your personality. You need to smile. Now, I can get away with a 3/4 shot as a public speaker. I think you need to look at the camera. Type, not if you'd like to be hired. If you're in your own business, I would definitely recommend type, because you need to elevate your expertise if you're in your own business. But if you're a job seeker, now I'm pretty sure I could go back to corporate and compete fairly well to get a job. However, if I left my profile like this with the type, you know, oh, they'd be happy to meet me, they'd be excited, but they'd be going, I don't know if we can fit in a room with John's head. I don't know if we can work with him. So ego and arrogance thing, it's too much if you want to be hired, but it's what's necessary if you're in your own business in managing your brand. Because people buy from you because they're confident in buying from you. Now, other than the picture, name's going to populate automatically. This is your headline. Here's where it all starts to go wrong right there. Because you can't separate that headline out from your profile, which doesn't even sound logical, right? Like, separate the headline from my profile? Conceptually, this headline has nothing to do with your profile. It's right below my name. How can it have nothing to do with my profile? Well, it has a little tiny bit to do with the profile. Its purpose is not the profile. If they are here, you have the entire profile to sell to them about why you're so great at whatever it is you do or offer. This headline is about your social media activity. This is not about the 5,200 people that know John. This is about the 21 million people who desperately need to know who John is. But they don't know John. So when I share something I'm reading or attending or doing, this headline goes with it. A small version of the picture goes with it. My name goes with it. This headline is out to an audience that has no clue who I am. So I'm using virtually every space available. What do I tell them? Author, career coach, and speaker. There's my website, featured speaker at the library. Oh my gosh, there's my email address. Would you like to be contacted? Put your email address in the headline. It's one of the only places LinkedIn does not promptly hide it from 99% of the people. So they can control the gate, the system, to try to get more people to upgrade. Put it in the headline. Not simply your last title or most current title. That's the only thing of value you could ever say about you? Say your most valuable piece to catch their attention so they click on your name to get the rest of the story. Then they're on your sales brochure. Now the rest of this here, if we don't like it, you have to change it down below. The only other things in this shot to show you are the 500 plus. Everybody's goal in this room is to get to 501 connections. What is today? Today is Thursday, right? By Monday. Even if you do not have a LinkedIn profile today. I know there's a couple of you in this room, right? No need to admit it. Even if you don't have a profile today. If you went home today and built out your profile, and if you did what I'll teach you now, you could be at 501 by Monday. And then you'll be 500 plus. Why does this even matter? Whether it's a business and people making a decision to purchase, or whether it's job search, making a decision to hire. Oh, I like you both. You're both so good. And then I suddenly see 67 connections. Oh, 500 plus, 500 plus. Move her, shake her finger on the pulse. Or she's connected to 500 random people she doesn't even know. But it doesn't matter. This is a perception war, and it's over. So get to 501. Now, how do you get there? Top of any page is a unified search box. Inside that box, you simply search for people that will accept you, which I can tell you how to do. Now, if you need some motivation for this, again, not a secret I work with clients. If I'm building someone's profile and it's their first profile, well, who do you think their first connection is? Right while I'm building the profile, right? With one connection, which is me, they have 495,000 people in their pool. You could imagine adding more and more and more people that are 500 plus is a really great strategy. Doesn't matter who they are, what they do, where they're located. It's never about them. It's about the 2 or 3 layers of network behind them that belong to you. So top of that search page, inside of quotations, you search invite me. Space between those 2 words, just like normal, whole thing in quotes. You get 10 pages on the free version of people literally begging you, just invite me, just invite me. There's no evaluation, just invite me. No thought process. You run through all 10 pages as fast as you can do. Just invite every single person. Has no effect what background, wherever they are, doesn't matter. Then you do the search again. Inside of quotes, all invites accepted. Space between the words, just like normal, whole thing in quotes. You get 10 more pages of people literally begging, all invites are accepted. All invites are accepted. Just be brave enough. Boy, big outcome if we do it that way. Invite all those people, we do it again. Now it's open networker, even though it's a little strange sounding. Space between those 2 words, open networker. 10 more pages. Last one does not need quotes. It's a single word, lion, just like a lion, stands for LinkedIn Open Networker. Now you're going to get a few people that are on the lion team at the real estate company, a few of those that don't belong. But most of them are power networkers. If you invite all those people tonight, even if tonight's your first day of the profile, by Monday, you'll be at 501 that quickly. This part will be over. Other thing to look at here is your address line. Most people fail to ever customize this. This is what you'd put on the email signature. Most people fail to customize it, so it ends in like X24EW. Click in linkedin.com/in/John Crant. Now that's clean enough to go on a business card, top of the resume, top of the cover letter, bottom of the email signature, on the back of my suit, if I so deemed it appropriate. Clean it up. Now as you click on contact information, this is going to open up and, well, email address. Yeah, John was saying that's important. Yes, but this is the one they promptly hide from 99% of the people. You know, as long as we're talking about email, let's have a harsh talk here. If you are on AOL, it's time. 10 years ago to move away from AOL. Not a way to get hired. You're communicating. You're from a couple decades ago now. If you're on Earthlink, they're probably directly responsible for why you're not employed. Because you have somehow convinced yourself that people can actually email you, when no one can email you unless they jump through rings of fire. And no one will jump through rings of fire today. They will just on to the next easiest person to email. Now let's get down to the really ugly email talk. If you're on Time Warner, Roadrunner, Optimum, Verizon, who did we leave out? RCN, any other flavors that are out there. If you're on your ISP's email address, you're communicating you don't even understand email. And that you're also the most gullible person in the world. You fell for the oldest marketing trick in the book, and you allowed yourself to be handcuffed to your internet provider. That's a trick so you never change internet providers. And it also says you don't even understand email. So where you need to be is Gmail. I have no special love for Google these days with the security and privacy, and you should just expect I've read it already anyway. What? But Gmail communicates you're up to date. If I'm suddenly concerned over you, if it's a little technical role, oh, they're on Gmail, they'll be fine. They're on Gmail. Perception. Manage the perception. Now, you can add your Twitter, which means John must think you should be on Twitter. Well, if you'd like your business to thrive, you need to be on Twitter. If you'd like your career to thrive, you need to be on Twitter. If you'd like to become employed, you need to be on Twitter. Ew, I almost threw up saying that. A little bit of taste right in the back of my mouth. Why? Ew. I didn't say you have to go to Twitter. I said you have to be on it. So you should use it. I would recommend you use the way I use it, which is we install it here. We give LinkedIn the passwords. We never go to Twitter ourselves, unless you desire to. And then when I share things like what I'm reading, doing, sharing, attending, with one toggle, I can seamlessly let that advertising, or what did I say, advertising updates, flow right out to Twitter. Never having to bother. It's like advertising on television. Do you need to know where it goes? No, it just goes. Why is it important? Because a lot of companies have stopped posting jobs because they can't handle 2,000 resumes. There's no one to read 2,000 resumes, 2,000 cover letters, 2,000 emails. So a lot of companies have stopped that nonsense, and all they do, they've learned to think like a recruiter. They can go to Twitter, search 4, 5, 6 words, and have exactly the top person to bring in for interview. All you have to do is imagine, what would the very best, whatever I want to hire, what would the very best, not just capable, oh, dime a dozen, the best, what would that person be reading, doing, sharing, or attending? Go look for that activity with just a few keyword searches like best practices fire safety. Boy, 4 words, and I can pull up top safety people for a safety project I need and evaluate their background with 4 words. I can breadcrumb trail back to their LinkedIn to make sure my gut feeling was right. Very easy. Now, you can also add 3 websites or 3 of anything that you can put on the internet. Just make sure you customize these. The mistake people make is they'll leave it saying, oh, my company, my blog. Customize this. The new selfrecruiter.com, or self-recruiter advice blog. Oh, maybe people click on that. Or, oh, in the Wall Street Journal. Don't remember that option. Yeah, customize these things. It's sales. Now, as you go down the profile, you can insert something called a long-form post. My gosh, if you're in your own business, you better be doing this. If you want your career to be on the top of what it could be, you better consider doing this. This is an article, not just a little update. Write a page, page and a half. Don't go any longer, because no one wants to read, which is terrible. But don't go any longer, because then you'll just get your heart broken at how much they don't read. But you could put in articles that you post that go to the LinkedIn Pulse newsletter. And if it gets selected by one of their editors, it goes there naturally. But if it gets selected for extra highlights, oh gosh, there's a gal that comes to these lectures here quite a lot, and she's doing this stuff, and suddenly she got 144,000 views because she came up with just the right magical title about fake dating that actually tied into analysis and career, and boy, didn't that really get the hits, and the editors selected. I'm like, I'm still trying to figure out how I get that many hits. As you click through, these things will display right to the full newsletter. This is also powerful selling for your career or for your business. Share some of your pearls of wisdom for your expertise. Why don't you talk about whatever it is that you can do and showcase these things? Next up on your profile comes the summary section. The summary section, the mistake is people will go, oh, summary, oh, that's that ineffective paragraph off my resume. I'll put it over here where it's equally ineffective. You notice you don't see any paragraphs. You don't see any wall of text. No one wants to read. I could have put this in a much more succinct way. You know, this space is so large, it's 3 screens long. I could have put this in, but then you'd have to read it, intellectualize it, digest it, conclude. Here you can just look at it. It's right in your brain. There's my media hits, featured speaker at the Library, Department of Labor. There's more room left, so I put other organizations I speak at. But you can see right away there's 8 other organizations I listed, but I broke them into 3 sets. Why? Because if I listed all 8, oh, that's a big paragraph. Oh, they'll just skip over it. No one's going to read it. So I had to compartmentalize and group them so they could be absorbed. So my gosh, we certainly don't want someone to miss Rainbow Push or Wall Street Project or Harvard Business School Club of New York City or Goldman Sachs or all these wonderful places. Still more room left for stories, so I put in every topic I speak about. That's just a very creative way to get keywords in there. You need content to be found. Still more room left, so I violate my own rule and stick in a paragraph. But it's far enough down. It's out of my book. I put quotes around it, so it's friendly. And by the way, if I've lost them at this point, well, I've lost them. So I roll the dice on a little paragraph. And then there's still more room, so I put my full services in here. And then I start attaching visuals. Anybody can attach visuals. You know, your summary, your individual jobs, they can all take visuals. This is image files. This is PDF files. This is PowerPoint files. Slideshows of many varieties. Video streams. They used to allow you to upload the videos directly. Now they make you stream it. You can do it off Vimeo. They can do it off YouTube. Or if you've already uploaded them, they're still there in the system. Public speaker, yeah, I can come up with some visuals pretty interesting way. By the way, there's that BBC video article one. You can watch it right on my LinkedIn profile. See Jerry Montgomery in the second half and the Sybil Branch as a star. So I can come up with some stuff, get on television occasionally. That's fun. But most people I work with can actually come up with some stuff. If you go back and pull together every single picture that ever touched your business or ever touched your work life, collect them all in one spot, good, bad, ugly, in focus, out of focus, dirty desk, what would you do with that? I don't know. Collect them all together and then work with someone creative that could cherry pick a few of them, understand the background story, and help you put together a slideshow with some type. Almost everybody can do that. You've got to compete against the 6 or 8 perfect people. This is how you begin to outmaneuver them. Be a real human being. Win people over emotionally. Now, if they like it, if it's streaming, it's going to pull the text off of wherever it is, like YouTube. If they like it, there's built-in sharing right from these components that you share. I don't care what this address line looks like. This brings people directly back to my profile. This is how I could maybe, even as part of an email signature, reach out to someone, say hello, and they click through, go, oh, what's John all about? Oh, and then they get over here and they like it and they send it to some boss over there. Oh, take a look at this guy. I think he might write for something. A built-in marketing mechanism that doesn't exist if you don't share content. So let's begin to think about how we can share content. Now, the summary section, what I actually did with it was I told them how to think of me in advance of actually showing them my background. Now, normally how we conclude value is we'll go employer title, employer title, employer title, education, and we make some conclusion based off of my view of those companies, good or bad, right or wrong. Based off my view of what I think you did in that job without reading anything, good or bad, right or wrong. Well, that's a lot of rolling of the dice. So I use the summary section to simply showcase my best aspects to help them conclude about me the same way I feel about myself. Then I use the publication module to begin to prove what I claimed was true. By the way, it's all true, but psychologically this helps to sell. So, by the way, a publication module by default is at the bottom of the resume, bottom of the profile. I can't influence anybody at the bottom of the profile. They may never even get there. So in the edit mode, you can grab any module and drag it up where you'd like. So I put it right under the summary. Of course, I put my book and I put in a few other articles I've been in. And my gosh, I got featured in Essence Magazine. At least likely got to be in Essence Magazine. I thought I was getting punked. Oh, you're in Essence Magazine this month. I'm like, what? I should go look. I should go look. And gosh, this gal that happened to be at one of these lectures. We're out on the sidewalk talking afterward. And she suddenly goes, oh, I'm blogging about my job search for Essence Magazine. I'm like, oh my gosh, you should have my book. You know, I can connect the dots. I didn't ask her anything. I trust the information is valuable. And then suddenly my book shows up in Essence Magazine. While she's featured in a picture talking to some other career coach. I'm like, oh, there's my book on the list. Blog, anybody can write a blog. Can you write 3, 4, 5 articles about your business, about your career, about your pearls of wisdom you could share down the food chain? Put them on a blog and you showcase it right here. Then you finally get to my traditional background. But this is not presented like a normal resume. First off, a normal resume, the bullets are all together. Well, I can't put the bullets all together. That's a big block of text. Ooh, they'll just bypass. Oh, I'll come back to that. Scary text. You don't see any sentence structure. There's no sentence structure here. Distill your bullet points down to a single line if you can, 2 lines if you can't, down to conceptual communication. While it's kind of difficult for you to kind of read these at this distance, spend some time on my profile yourself, experience the technique, see how well it communicates to you, and translate that over to your profile. So once you get these in here and distill down to just the essence points, there has to be space between every bullet, and then very, very selectively, the only control you have is whether to use all capitalization. So you very selectively go through and just a few little items here and there get some all cap treatment. Not too much all cap, or they won't read much at all. And if you don't use any all cap, they won't read much at all. When you experience this on your own, you look at the bullet point and you glance across it and you'll realize it just flows right into your brain without thought, the way I've constructed them. Learn that technique and adapt it to your own. Now, I get to the end of the self-recruiter story and I insert a keyword block. Now, most people don't need one of these things. If you need one of these things, you stick it anywhere. There's no special spot. Now, I have a lot of words here that are in my profile, but if you looked really closely, you'd see things like Stephen Covey, Tony Robbins, Anthony Robbins. Never quite know how they're going to search him. Tori Johnson, 5 O'Clock Club, 92nd Street Y. All these things I have absolutely nothing to do with. Why are they here? Because John thinks like a detective. There could be someone looking for someone just like John, but they don't know John. They could search any one of those things. Plus, Tony Robbins is getting a little long in the tooth. Maybe he needs a little push off stage. They can't find me if this is not in my profile, and I cannot get this in my profile by speaking organically about me. If you need something in your profile and you can't get it in there, this is how you get it in there. So you show up in the search results. Someone's looking for Tony Robbins, they better find me. And we can attach those visuals, of course, to jobs as well. Just 2 techniques I want to show you a little bit further down, then I want to show you how to search for individuals that you need to meet. This is when I'm VP over the 100 offices. I'm talking about the fact that we did manufacturing, engineering, supply chain, logistics, automotive, legal, on and on and on, chemical, energy, blah, blah, blah. You know what that really is. That's just keywords. Think about how you tell your story. You can imagine anybody in any one of those industries, if they're looking for a career coach, guess who comes right up based on how I've told the story? Variation on that technique is from much earlier, where I was a group manager, and I'm doing associated clients down here at the bottom. And I'm going to zoom this up and pull it up top so you can see it. By the way, do you see open networker, all invites accepted, invite me, lion? I have it right in my own profile also, so people can find it. No special spot. Those are the things I told you to search for to add lots and lots of people. I've got it in my own profile too. Stick it anywhere. All it has to be is there so they can find it when they search. But what we're really looking at right now is these ones above, the associated clients. Now this could get you in trouble. Careful of non-disclosures, careful of trade secrets agreements. You could get in serious trouble if you don't have. I had permission to share every single client I worked with, and I shared every single software client I worked with. You can imagine storytelling technique if you work with any one of these software clients and you need a career coach, guess who comes right up? Think about how you're going to tell your story, how you're going to find the right people that either want to buy from your business or hire you, and then do the right things. Does anyone volunteer here? Anyone volunteer? Volunteer? Oh, you volunteer? I'm sorry. I was interested, but I realized it was volunteer work. I don't know why we have such baggage over volunteering. I'm interested. Oh, it's volunteer. So dismissive right away, right? It wasn't something real. So for myself nor my clients, I don't use the volunteer module. It says volunteer. Might as well say don't look here. So I don't know why it comes with baggage, so I use the organizations module, which accomplishes the same thing with none of the dismissive baggage. So, oh, this is how I align myself. Oh, this is how I give back to society. All positive, no negative. Paid, unpaid, doesn't matter. By the way, in this section, I put a lot of dates here, but there's no need for dates. No need for dates here. Good works don't expire. So whether it's these, or all of these, or all of these, whatever you need to do, put it up there. Get your credit. Get your credibility increasing. Now, skill set, keywords. This is where you put them. You can choose 50 words that help manage your brand, 50 words or phrases. It's tough. I do it for clients. You need to come up with 50 words or phrases. People are going to vote on these things for you. Again, it comes down to 2 people I have for interview. Which one do I invite in? I say, oh, I see only 30 or 40 votes. I see, oh, 99, 99, 99, 99. Your goal here is to get to 100 votes. You get to 100 votes, guess what you are? 99 plus. You need to be 99 plus on anything that is core to you. That takes a little bit of time. We're going to open up for questions in just 1 second here, but we want to cover just 2 more things. Recommendations, get as many as you can. The secret is do not edit them. You start reading through 52, 53 written recommendations that I have up here, you're going to see all sorts of typos, all grammar all over. Oh my gosh, didn't John see that? Of course I did. That's why it works. Read them. The hair on the back of your neck will stand up. So learn the same thing for yourself. Don't tell people what to write about, not even a topic. Oh no, whatever you'd like. As little, as much as you'd like to say, I'm sure it'll be fine. And I am sure it'll be fine, because nothing goes live without your approval. Roll the dice and get someone to say something magical about you. But don't plant ideas or they'll never say these 5 magical things they would have come up with. Take some chance. See what people will say. They'll surprise you. Groups, you can join 50 groups. You know you need to join all 50 groups. As you join any group, every member of that group is in your pool instantly. Even the ones that have tens of thousands of people in the group. I join the group. I now have tens of thousands and more in my pool. I can see. Oh, there's a self-recruiter group. I love that group. Follow some decision makers. Oh, I'm following some interesting people here. Now we have to get to those decision makers. This is the boss, the boss's boss, the boss's boss's boss. How do I find those folks? Last few screens here before questions. I'm going to go in, top of any page, and we have our unified search box. In this example, I'm searching Informatica, big database middleware company. Don't click on the drop-down menus as you start typing. That's a trip down the rabbit hole. Type what you want, click enter, and then over here, click companies so you have the widest possible result. 198 companies. That's an awful lot. Only 4 or 5 of these are actually related to Informatica. Every other one of these companies are statistically perfect to hire you. They are system integrators. They either install or resell Informatica software. If I'm right for Informatica, I'm right for any one of these companies. You could actually put every company you've worked for one at a time up here, and no matter how strange it seems to see the other names, you'll see other companies that would like to hire your expertise. Then you have to find people. So we do it again, Informatica, but now we click on people. Really in the US, 1,706 results. That's too many. I got to narrow this down. So I can go in to advanced, even on the free version. I can put in VP title. What do I get? 197 VPs, that's still quite a bit. Why don't I go in again? I'm going to narrow it down by my zip code plus 50 miles. And maybe I can narrow it down to director. And using this technique, I can find the 8 directors in New York City. Oh, I can introduce myself to 8 people. That's much easier than what I've been doing before. That's the secrets to how you present yourself and how you find these right people. You can get as specific as possible, right down to channel manager. Tom, I placed there years and years ago. Must have been a pretty good fit. Why don't we open it up to questions now? I wanted to make sure there was enough time to deal with whatever individual questions you have. I know we have a little bit of a mixed audience between business, career, and job seekers today. So let's open it up to any LinkedIn-related question you may have. And let's wait for the microphone 1 second, because we have a second room, and we don't want to miss those folks.
Sure. My question is on your name. If you have professional designations, PhD, etc., do you recommend putting that in your title on your LinkedIn?
I might. There's a couple ways I might handle that. That may be somewhere in the title. I'd certainly showcase that in my summary area. But I may simply put my name, comma, PhD, or my name, comma, whatever other designation. That's also possible. Just make sure it's an asset that's going to work for you and not against you. Sometimes we get a little extra education and we're in a field that doesn't necessarily appreciate the extra education, and so that's a rare time I might not put it up at the very top. I'm still going to show it down at the bottom. But absolutely, same on the top of the resume. There's no reason not to put it right up there next to the name. A little smaller than the name. Next question?
What would be the contents for business? And the second question, for an entrepreneur, does it make sense to have a LinkedIn profile?
Sure. This is, in case we didn't quite hear that, for what makes sense for my own business? Or what if I'm an entrepreneur? Do I need a LinkedIn profile? Well, the answer in both cases is absolutely yes. If I'm an entrepreneur and I'm still inventing whatever I'd like to become, whoever you decide to partner with, whoever you decide to lean on as suppliers or vendors or whatever your business model is, all of those people make their decisions by credibility choices. Your LinkedIn profile helps provide you the public credibility so that people will engage your business and your business can grow. So I think you need one. Now, what do you put in as far as content? There's 2 different things to think about from a business standpoint. You should open up a business page itself, which is free, and an individual page, which is for you, which is also free, unless you buy an account. On your page, you're telling the best story of who you are, not just who you are in this moment. Go back and tell your whole story. You mean that one from 20 years ago? Yes, but the best version of it, so that all of it stacks together to go, now you understand how I've arrived today as such a wonderful entrepreneur with this whole background. So go back and tell a whole great story that might inspire all those people that you might partner with as you grow your business. On your business page for LinkedIn, and I have a whole business lecture to deal with that you should come back for, that's all about showcasing what you offer, why people should buy from you. You can even integrate your products, everything else. You can put as much content as you like up there, or just placeholder content, depending on how you want to handle it. Myself, I use my business profile more as placeholder content so it doesn't get lost, and I use my personal profile to essentially sell for the business.
Thank you for this answer. But could the personal page put your brand? Because normally the brand, I think that as a team, as a global brand.
Sure. Well, your brand should be on your personal page. Now, you saw my profile, which had Self-Recruiter, little green Self-Recruiter logo. The way that's accomplished is I built a Self-Recruiter company page. And of course, I uploaded my logo. And then when I built my own individual profile, I selected Self-Recruiter as the employer. And so it naturally pulls in the logo because the logo appears on the company page. So you get your brand, your logo onto the page by building your company page and uploading the logo and then cross-connecting.
Thank you.
Next question?
Hi.
Hi.
There are people who I want to connect with, but they only have InMail and LinkedIn.
They only have InMail? How tragic.
Yeah, they do.
They do.
So is there a way to get around that? Because
Of
otherwise
course.
you have to upgrade.
Of course. There's no reason. You can connect with anyone you'd like to connect with. There's no way for them to stop you. There are tiny little ways they tried to put a speed bump, a roadblock, let me throw a couple bricks at you, a little log coming your way that you have to like jump over and stuff. But really they can't ever stop you. So if you see an individual that you want to connect with, on that one page they may try to block you. You could simply discover the person's email address, which is not brain surgery. We can get anyone's email address. That's 99% of the people's email address in 2 or 3 minutes. So that's not something that blocks us any longer. I can tell you at the end how to do that if you need it, but I go find what their email address is, then I just go up under my drop-down menus and click Connections. And the Connections window opens up, and there's a space just to paste in my email addresses that I'd like to send people to. There's no block on that whatsoever. Also, you may have noticed LinkedIn provides several ways to access the platform, not just simply the website on a browser, but they have apps as well. And those apps rarely block you. So if you are blocked using the browser, pull up the app and you go, ridiculous, why am I not blocked here? I can just click, click, click right here. So there's a way around everything, even if it's to use the manual connection of go up and click Connections, dump the email addresses right in the empty box. There's no way they can prevent you from connecting to anybody. They can only try to prevent you. But you can get right over those hurdles. Mm-hmm. So the question is a good follow-up question, which is, oh, by the way, how do I find that email address? Well, first thing you do is we're looking at a scenario where we're seeing someone that we'd like to connect with. So you're seeing their profile, you're seeing their name. I have their name. What I need to figure out is what's their email address. So I look at where they work. I go to the company website. Very quickly, I'm looking around for one human being. Very quickly, don't waste time. This is 2-3 minutes for the whole process. Check careers, check investor relations, check PR, although PR investor relations can sometimes be handled by outside groups. But quickly see if you spot a person. By the way, jobs at is not a person. Find a person's email. If there's no person email on the website really quickly, then you immediately go to Google. And you put in the email address minus the person part. Let's take Informatica as an example. Informatica's email address is the person part at informatica.com. That's it. So I take at informatica.com, stick that whole thing in quotes, exactly like it is, and stick it in a Google search. Click Enter. Don't click on any of the results. That's a trip down the rabbit hole. Simply look at the results, like a headline and a little mini paragraph. Just look down the results and don't see it. Next page. Oh, there it is. 1, 2, 3 pages in, you'll spot an email address highlighted, just like that. Once you have one person's email address, you have every person's email address. Take the name, apply it to the format, email the person directly. Really that simple. So I will really, let me just mention, since you brought up InMails, I am not a believer in InMails. If someone is an active user of LinkedIn, very quickly InMails and really almost any communication on LinkedIn itself is looked at as spam. I have over 1,000 unopened messages in my LinkedIn inbox. It's all almost looked at as spam. So I would advise you, if you want to email someone, step outside of LinkedIn and just email them directly so it's really in their box. Dear Jack, dear Jim, dear Jill, I just had to reach out and introduce myself to you. I'm so excited by what I see going on at ABC Company. You know, by the way, I saw that Wall Street Journal article you got last week on your new such and such launch. You know, when I was back at XYZ Company, I handled a very similar launch. Yeah, I'd love to come in and share with you how we tackled a lot of the issues I bet your team's experiencing. I have an opening on my calendar. My calendar. Oh my gosh, your words are important. Open on my calendar Tuesday at 10 a.m. Might that work for a brief meeting? See how gently I return the control to them, as if they had some choice. And then I'm going to close with expectations. Looking forward to a great discussion. I guess this guy thinks he's going to meet with me. You know, why wouldn't you meet with me? Unless you're a crazy person or unless you're not qualified for your own job. And we know there's a lot of folks out there like that. So be brave, discover how to reach out to them, and let's reach out directly. Question?
If I'm a new user to LinkedIn and I want to start, thank you, and I want to start my profile, but in the beginning I may not be familiar or confident in the content, so should I wait until I feel that I kind of completed more?
Chicken or the egg, right? Which comes first? But my content's not ready, my story's not ready, where do I start? You're never going to be ready. We all know that, right? That's the reality. We're never going to be ready. Whatever the challenge, we're never going to be ready. So we might as well, hold our nose, plug our ears, jump in the water. Let's see what happens.
But I know every time when you update your profile, it will show. Is there the rule of thumb that how many times or how often you should update your profile?
Well, when you update your profile, it does ping the network. Oh, John Krantz updated his profile. That is advertising. That is something you want. Now, there may be one time you don't want it, like that one time I'm spending a whole weekend building my special profile. That may be a case where I go in and turn my settings to more anonymous, more quiet, turn off the broadcast features, only while I'm building out the profile. Because maybe I'll do 40 separate uploads. Oh, upload this, upload that. Oh, I don't like this, let's try this. I don't want to ping, 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 right? So maybe I turn off that in the settings while I'm uploading it, and then I don't wait, because fear keeps us locked in a box. Well, as soon as I have my update, I turn back on all the public features, all the broadcast features, so that I can be seen. Because there's no point in going out and buying a billboard or getting the side of a building here in the city, putting up some big fancy something or other ad, and then covering up with fabric so no one can see it. Oh, look at that. Gimmick, right? You need to be public because this is your public perception. I would worry less about the pinging and just start to work on your story. It's going to get better day by day. You'll refine it each day, and today's the first day. So welcome. Hi, who's next?
Thank you very much for sharing the great information with us.
You're more than welcome.
Thank you. Two quick questions. One of them, if you don't want to hold the previous headline or title of our previous job, what's the best title or headline would be for our profile? And second, if we're in between jobs, is it okay to put the end date for our previous job or just leave it?
Oh, tricky questions now, right? How about that end date? Well, first off, don't be in too much of a rush to update your end date. That doesn't mean that we don't someday need to, how long has it been? But I've had some people that were like, well, I just had this question last week. I got laid off last October. I should update that soon. I'm like, we're in June. Well, it was May, but now we're in June, and it's like, we're getting there. We 6, 7, 8 months, depending on how we calculate it. It's time. However, do you realize if we just went in and removed the months? To remove your months, if you put those months in there, I don't know why you would have, but if you put those months in there to remove them, you simply go into the month and return it all the way to the top where there's a little dash. Return it to the dashes and the months disappear. You don't have to disclose months. If you got laid off in 2015, you know what December 31st was? 2015. That's the way the brain works. They see 2015, they assume the end of the year. I never said it was the end of the year. That may gain a little bit, like another month or two you could eke out. But eventually, 3, 4 months or so, you're going to have to update it. You just quietly put the end date. What should we do with the headline, the title? I'm not a believer in saying, hey, I'm looking for work. I'm unemployed. Why don't we just go down to Canal Street and get some really shiny, velvety red fabric, and we can make nice little letters for ourselves. That's not a way to get hired. Why don't you use that spotlight, that headline, not to tell them your last title, tell them what is it that you do and why you're so good at it. In other words, distill back down, why am I good at what I do? What are my skills? Maybe it's a combination of things about you we should be saying that might go, I need a person like that on my team. That's the right message about you. Hope that helps.
I have a question. If you reach out to somebody on LinkedIn, either a message or an email, and you don't get a response back from them, say, in a week, what recourse did you take?
Gosh, in a week, if I reach out to someone on LinkedIn and I don't get a response for a week, first thing is I would not wait a week. Time is your enemy. Time is the only thing that works against us. We can't invent it. We can't make it move faster, move so fast on its own. A week later, they'll have no clue who you are. So, if they don't respond within a day, it's time to go right back after them. It's really that quickly. Now, I could email, I could go after voicemail, email, I could go after someone 4, 5, 6 times in 2 days and have them not be mad at me when we talk on the phone. I can't give them 4, 5, 6 messages that are exactly identical. Am I going to treat them as if they're not capable? I have to treat them as if they heard every message. This is a conversation, even though it's a monologue. I have to pretend it's a conversation. And they certainly heard the first message. So when I call them back, I have to figure out, how do I continue the message without repeating unnecessary stuff? Something that will help you in your messaging is, why don't you build in some tripwires to cause action or reaction, and really, really nice veiled threats, which cause action or reaction, which sounds like this. I might say whatever I was going to say about myself. I would love to meet with you. By the way, let's see, I like to use what's going on. It's just after 7:30. You know what? My next meeting is not until 8. If you could call me right back and we can connect, oh, that'd be fantastic. Otherwise, oh, maybe I'll try you just before midnight. Well, you know, I would say lunch normally, but I'm using reality, right? So let's imagine we're in a 24-hour world. John sounds rational, valuable, sane. Why don't people answer the phone? Because they're usually on it. So if they get your message right away and you've left them this 30, 40-minute window of time, they can maybe just not put you on the to-do list and call you right back, which is what you want. And they have motivation because they don't, well, he's just going to call me again. I should just call him. I should just call him back. And when I call him at noon, I'm not going to repeat the whole earlier message. I might simply say, hey, Jack, it's John Cramp. Gosh, I thought I'd try you right before the lunch hour. You know, I'm not stepping out for another 25 minutes. If you happen to be in the office, just give me a call back. Otherwise, maybe I'll try to touch base mid-afternoon. Oh, yeah. Because my mission in life is to get to them. You thought it was valuable enough to reach out to them. Your intent is to have a conversation. Even if that conversation is, get off my phone, how'd you get my number, take me off your list, never call me again. We don't want that to happen to you. But you've got to get to people to have conversation happen. Make sense? Do we have time for one more question? Or are we going to, I think we have time for one more question. One last question. Please, while we're getting this question, please fill out those evaluation forms. This is how the library schedules whatever it wants to schedule. You guys control that. So if you want, say, more of these self-recruiter lectures, you should write, I'd like more self-recruiter lectures. I have a lot of them to give. If you'd like some other lecture, you should write that down as well. And good, bad, or ugly, however you feel about this lecture, you should put those comments down too. That's how we adjust and change and make sure it's valuable for you every time. So back to our last question.
Yes, really important. You get the job, and they offer you the salary, and then you come back with a counteroffer. It's a very high level. You know, the higher the level, the longer it takes.
Yep.
And you're going, it's 3 months, it's 6 months. It's a waiting game. They don't want you to flinch. So what do you do at that point where you haven't heard back in 3 months?
Wow, 3 months is a long time.
And it's come through that waiting that long, 3 months, even 6 months, the position has been still secured. But sometimes it appears that they're just waiting.
They're just trying to see if you'll give up first. Can I starve you into accepting this? You know,
So you just sit it out?
the best thing to do there is, why don't you go after all their direct competitors? You have a pending offer, which is really true. They've expressed that they want to make you an offer. They're just not ready. It's not ready yet for you. Right. So why don't you go to their 3 or 4 top competitors right now while you're waiting? The only way you actually move their hands is by getting something booked with the competitor, then being able to reach back out and say, oh, dear Jack, dear Jim, dear Jill, I just wanted to touch base. I am so excited about getting on your team, but I felt I owed you this call. I'm actually going in to meet with your competitor on Thursday. I know it's been quite some time that we've been working on this offer. Is there any way that we could accelerate it and I could cancel my Thursday meeting? Ooh, give them some motivation. You could prevent me from going to the competitor if you just step up with that offer. You need to think outside of the box. Many things you can do, or you just find a really great career coach to help you. Thank you guys for coming. Please check out Sybil here. If you haven't been to this branch has so many resources, endless amounts of expensive paid databases that they provide, and even better than that, you don't have to know how to use them. They have librarians that will teach you how to use them. Can it get any better than that? Thank you guys for coming tonight. I appreciate it. All my stuff is up on my website. Just click calendar. If you need a card, there's plenty of cards right up here, and hope to see you in a lecture coming up. Take care, guys.